to land a good job, you have to be in the right place and the right time. Wanted to make changes sometimes when I was teaching. I wanted to make changes in policies and the way we do things. But of course, as an employee, you can't make those changes. So that's when the idea came in. What about having my own college and run it the way I wanted to? Any business who are not ready and who are not adjusting to the realities which surrounds the business, they will fail. A friend of mine who graduated with me from medical school, he's practicing now in Holland and Netherlands. It was very easy for them to get licensed and work, and he's working for many, many years and treating a whole lot of patients. But in USA, having 10 times more population and more hospitals and universities is slightly easier. But in Canada, it's tough. Whatever we teach in 1 year, rest assured, it could be taught 2 to 3 years in community colleges. International student, and majority of them are coming in with a hope to, let's be very frank and open about it. They don't come in to actually learn something that they don't have it back home.
Hello, Mr. Miajan. How are you doing today?
Very good, thank you.
We are pleased to have you at our podcast. You being the president and the founder of Canadian Aryan College, coming here in Canada 35 years back from Afghanistan, how does it feel? What has changed?
A lot changed, and but it also feels like yesterday. And 35 years ago, when I came into this country, I came in with, like many newcomers who come into this country. They have a whole lot of knowledge, or they have some credentials, and I came in with an MD, a medical doctor, but I realized that there is not much I can do with that, and so I have to start all over again. I was young, not much responsibility, and I went back to the University of Toronto. I studied for 6 years. I did my Bachelor of Science in Human Physiology, and at that time, there was an option to do my residency, but I found my passion, and that was education. So instead, I did my Master's in Education at U of T, and that's when I fell in love with it. And from that point on, I was in many roles in different settings, healthcare settings, nursing homes, Ministry of Health, as a staff educator, developmental specialist, and my role was to educate staff. And also at the same time, I was teaching. I was teaching in colleges, I was teaching in career colleges, and I wanted to make changes sometimes when I was teaching. I wanted to make changes in policies and the way we do things. But of course, as an employee, you can't make those changes. So that's when the idea came in. What about having my own college and run it the way I wanted to? So that's when Canadian Aryan College was born in 2003.
Were you able to make the changes
Yes.
you were dreaming
So
for?
we basically built up the way I wanted to, very student-focused and career-focused. And so we started it with one program, a few students. It was a gamble. It was a risk to take.
Which program was it?
Personal support worker. And that's the name, Canadian All Care. So we came in with a health-focused program, and we started with personal support worker. And that was the time for those people that they were in Ontario in 2003. They know as soon as we started it, SARS pandemic came in. And I thought, that's it, that's the end of us. But there were some brave souls who came into the college, and from there we started it, and many classes, more students, and then we started other programs. So 21 years later, today we have 2 campuses in Scarborough and North York, thousands of students, thousands of graduates, in over dozens of programs in health, business, and technology. So I think we did something right. And
Now you have stepped into business sphere as well from healthcare. Yeah, you're having business
yes,
coachings as well.
but my main focus still education. So we are delivering education. Obviously, it is a small business. We have over hundreds of employees who are working for us. either in administration, either they're program coordinators, either they're instructors, and from all over GTA, in fact, delivering education to these thousands of students. So it is a business. The downside of that is when I started, I was teaching, and I love teaching. To me, teaching is a performance, and that kind of ended when there's more administrative responsibilities came in. So I really do not have time to teach, but I'm enjoying when the students are coming in. They're coming with passion, with a whole lot of hope, and they learn and they get their certification and diploma, and they get into jobs in the field that they studied, which I can say a lot about university grads. A lot of my friends who were with me with Bachelor of Science, they're not working in the same field, they're doing different things. And we do have some students from university that they come in to take one of our programs in order to have a job, either to continue their studies or to find a job.
Why is it so difficult for foreign graduates to have their career in the same field in Canada?
Well, for certain jobs and for certain professions, it's not that difficult. But when it comes to healthcare and when it comes to jobs which is regulated, there are lots of red tapes, and I've been dealing with that for the last 35 years.
If I would say mostly all jobs in healthcare are regulated.
Mostly they are regulated. I do have friends that they're doctors. They have a whole lot of knowledge, but unfortunately, they are doing other jobs, delivering food or working in general labor, and it is a shame to see those knowledge is going to waste. I've been hearing about it for the last 35 years that we're going to do something about it. We're going to make it easy, and even with a shortage that we have with physicians, there's some facilitation with RNs because of the COVID and the shortage that they had is happening. But with physicians, it's same old, and there's a whole lot of red tapes. Some of them for good reasons. Some of them are not so much for good reasons.
What are for good reasons and what are not?
For good reasons, for example, the standard of healthcare. So, like when I'm in healthcare and I see 50% of our healthcare is really based on technology that we have, the instrument, the equipment that we have, the diagnostic tools that we have. So it's not like a doctor with a briefcase and a bunch of prescription and come in going around. Today, the doctor role is vastly changed. And so they're relying on those diagnostic tools that they have before prescribing a medication. So, and also the procedures, the surgeries are done quite differently than traditional surgeries. So obviously a foreign grad needs to fulfill those standards. And so you and I, when we go to a doctor, we have to have that assurance that a doctor who is licensed knows and you trust that person. So those standards are there, the parameters are there for public trust, which is a good thing. And so foreign grads are coming in, and those supposed to be there to make sure before they are actually treating a patient, they qualify for those standards. So those are the good things about
I understand, but isn't it very hectic? Isn't it very complex how
it
it's
is
done?
complex, and for other areas, there is a whole lot of red tapes. For example, finding a residency spot, and it is kind of ironic to see. In one hand, we have difficulty finding a physician. In one hand, we have difficulty fulfilling those positions. And at the same time, thousands of foreign doctors are roaming around.
And they are highly skilled.
Absolutely. And some of them are highly skilled. I actually have students that they took programs in related health fields, and they were amazing doctors. But unfortunately, they don't have the patient, or the feeling is it's kind of near impossible to get residency and
Me being a
get
doctor
licensing.
myself, being a foreign medical graduate, yeah, I see that. It's way hard to go through all that procedure and then start with everything again.
Absolutely. When I came in 1989, some of my friends, they passed the exam and they were waiting for a residency spot for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. When I had a chat with them, they said, you know what, getting a residency spot and getting licensed will be like hitting the jackpot 649. So don't waste your time. So I took their advice and I went to university like a high school grad. Started like a full-time studies, bachelor degrees, worked of course at the same time. And believe it or not, I have to take a personal support worker. At that time, they used to call it healthcare aide. I had to take this course, the certificate course in a college, in order to work as a healthcare aide, although I had an MD.
Exactly.
So I took that course in order to support myself while I was studying for the next 6 years. And that's what I did. And a lot of people are doing that. And in fact, this college started with healthcare programs. And recently we had more advanced and more longer programs in healthcare. One of the reasons behind it personally was to help those doctors to actually have a meaningful job related to their profession so they could utilize their knowledge as opposed to doing something totally unrelated.
Okay. A quick question.
Yeah.
3 top courses for good jobs related to someone who is a foreign medical graduate in Canada.
There's a lot of needs for technicians. For example, ultrasound technicians. There's a lot of needs for X-ray technicians. That comes to mind right away because there's a lot of needs for that.
And what is the work of ultrasound technician and X-ray technician for viewers to understand?
Yeah, so the ultrasound technician, we call it also sonographer. They will be doing all sorts of sonography, ultrasound. For example, you go for abdomen or obstetric gynecology, or you go for, like when ladies are pregnant, they normally visit the ultrasound technologist, or if you have a fracture or anything. Ultrasound seems to be a very good diagnostic tool, which is with not known side effects, and everybody could utilize it, even a pregnant lady. So because of that, it is more popular. And an X-ray technician, of course, we all took X-rays, and we know there's a lot of needs for that. And MRI technician, for example. So our doctors, because these courses involved a whole lot of anatomy, physiology, pathology, they could utilize their knowledge and they could go faster in these subjects. Easily understand it, and of course, utilizing their knowledge in that
What
field.
is the duration of these courses?
They're within normally 2 years programs, which includes their practicum placement. So those are good programs. Actually, my advice to those doctors would be take those programs. Those are very, very high demand on it, and that'll be a starting point.
Again, a quick question. What is the pay rate they are looking at once they graduate?
The pay rate is for an ultrasound technologist. By the way, actually, we don't offer that program at this point. We are going to start. We are waiting for approval from the ministry, and we will be having it soon. The pay rate is starting from, I think, $30 plus per hour.
That's great.
Yeah, and I know some of our instructors who are working in hospitals, they're getting up to $50 per hour. So
that's great.
Yeah.
You have a lot of courses in business as well. How and when did you add up business in your?
Well, it basically the nature of a career college, and we are looking at what is in demand, and whatever is in demand, we create the programs, and we develop the program. We get approval from the ministry, and we teach it. That's why we are not teaching history or philosophy. There is nothing absolutely wrong with history or philosophy. I love them. But unfortunately, when you graduate, there's not much job out there. So most of our programs are career-oriented, whatever is in demand in the market. Because if our graduates are graduating and they don't have a job, of course, community colleges and universities, they are being heavily subsidized, and you study your bachelor in art and science and you put the degree on the wall. It looks very nice, but it doesn't necessarily lead you to a job unless you take a graduate programs or more specialized field. So for us, in order to survive, in order to have referrals, is programs which there is a demand for it in the market. The graduates are graduating, they get a job, then they tell their friends, family, neighbors that this is what I did, and they refer a student to us. In fact, 60% of our student bodies are referrals from our alumni. And so that means we're on the right path. And a career college is supposed to be judged based on their
That's
the
a success
employment
for your college.
the employment level. And so that's the whole idea of a career college. So we are offering programs which there's a job demand for it. And obviously that is changing from time to time. For example, COVID changed a whole lot. Change the way we do things. Change businesses. A lot of businesses went out of business. And a lot of new ones flourished. So after the COVID, now we are offering programs in a different way. For example, we are offering it virtually. At some point we had to because it came in the middle of the programs that we are offering in person. And after that, somehow people realized that, the students realized that this is a better way to study. The instructor realized this is a better way to work. You don't have to waste 2-3 hours on the highways and getting into work to a school and going back. And that's one advantage. And the second advantage, now that we are offering some of our programs virtually, we can reach students from all over Ontario. So no longer we are working within the 25 kilometers radius of North York.
So you are right now providing your courses online as well.
We are providing most of the theory programs online. If it requires hands-on skills, they come in and then they do hands-on skills. For example, we have a program called Medical Esthetician. So they study 2 days online, and the other 2 days they come into the campus in the lab and they practice what they study. So that is kind of a hybrid. But there are some programs which is entirely virtual, and they only come in to do some hands-on skills, for example, CPR, or for PSW, for example, to learn bid making and transfer and some of the assignments that they have, which requires hands-on skills. And the practicum placement, then they go and do their practicum placement. And because we have been in business for the last 21 years, we have developed hundreds of community partners. So we can place them where they live, close to where they live. So I have students from Windsor, Ontario. So they study online on the theory part, but the practicum place, we could find a nursing home or a long-term care facility close to where they live in Windsor, Ontario. And so they do their practicum placement and they graduate. We have students from Ottawa, believe it or not. We have students from all the way north, all the way south to Peterborough and Oshawa.
And you provide them their placements on the location.
In the location that they live, because the standard is the same. For example, if somebody's studying personal support worker, the standard is the same. Long-term care is operating based on Long-Term Care Act and supposed to be the same. So and we send them a place which is close to their homes because their shift starts at 7 a.m. And so they needs to be close to where they live. And also, we are thinking about their employment because a lot of over 40% of our students, when they go for their practical placement, they actually get a job offer because they see them in action. And if they like them, they give them a job offer. And so if the workplace is closer to their home, that is a luxury that not everybody could have, but we try to help them to have that luxury if possible.
Talking about the time of COVID that you mentioned, a lot of new things came up, businesses came up, many businesses just went down. A new field came up, that was telemedicine.
For example, right after COVID, we realized there's a huge demand for supply chain management program. So we have a supply chain management program, and it's a 1-year program, which we didn't have it before. We have a program which is becoming very famous as event planner. So that came up, and we realized there's a need for it. So we are offering that, and we actually have several classes during day, evening, and weekend. People are studying that, and they're becoming event planner and virtual event planner, like a virtual wedding somewhere. So these are the things which pre-COVID, there was not much demand for it. But we do have it now, and It will be the future.
I was talking about new field which came up, like boosted up, I would say, telemedicine.
Yes,
So you can consult a doctor online, check everything online, and people can have almost the same kind of prescriptions and same advice from doctor just sitting at the comfort of their home,
absolutely.
everything done
Like before COVID, I never thought that you will have a doctor's appointment with your physician online.
online.
So I had to have it because it was a quarantine. Nobody could get out, or you could not get into. So I had several appointments with my own physician online. And so, you talk to or on the phone, phone appointments. So those things, we never heard of it. To be very frank with you, before COVID, if somebody would call me and tell me that, are you offering online classes, I will just hang up. Because to me, online education was not really education. Being a traditional person, being in medical school, being 6 years in person at U of T, to me, it was a kind of a shortcut. But then COVID came in, and we were in the middle of delivering the programs in person, and we had no choice. The highways were all empty. I mean, you could drive in 401 and you don't see a car. And so obviously we have to do something about it because our students were OSAP students. They could not be an interruption. And the end date is very important to them. We didn't want to waste their time. So we switched in a hurry to offer our programs online, whatever we could. And that was a necessary thing. And we thought this is only a temporary thing. Like once we go back to normal, we go back to normal. But then, as we did this and we got really good at it, because we use now platforms which is designed for delivering education online. So we are using Microsoft Teams, for example, at this point, the educational version of it. And now we are indulging, we are getting approval from the ministry for some of our programs, which is asynchronous. So meaning the students could log in and study at any given time. So we're using Canvas for that. Now, these are the realities of today, and then we got into it. And actually, surprisingly, I realized that we could do so much more when it comes to online delivery. You have the whole internet under your fingertips. They could see videos, they could perform, you could have small classrooms, they could have a discussion, they could see each other's faces. And in fact, it becoming possible for somebody who lives in a remote area and does not have access to these colleges. So that really improved a lot. And so now we, of course, for the last few years, we learn how to deliver it, how to monitor it, how to make it even better and better. And so those are the realities we live in right now, and you have to adjust. And any business who are not ready and who are not adjusting to the realities which surrounds the business, they will fail. But we are flourishing, and I think we are doing something right.
They say there's a famous line. They say that you need to change. Change is important. If you change yourself, it'll be smooth, comforting. But if time changes you, it'll be a real hard push.
That's true. That's very true. When you had to change, but if you're ahead of your time a little bit, that's when you're doing good.
You'll flourish.
Yeah, and look at all these billionaires we have today. They had some ideas in mind, and
They thought of the ideas 10 years
that's right.
ago. 10 years prior to, they had an idea that something will come up this way that
Yep.
people won't wish to go to the market to buy something, they want to order it online.
Yep.
And that's how Amazon came up.
Absolutely.
Talking about students, I would like to focus on some students who don't have that much financial condition to pay their fees as well. Do we have any options for them as well?
Well, when I started it, 1990, there was the only option was OSAP, and I had a full-time job, which was I was supporting myself. OSAP was mostly loan, something like grant. Nobody knew what grant is. Only if you're a high school grad for the 4 years, within 4 years you join university, you will get some grant. As a result of it, when I studied full time for 6 years, when I graduated, I was owing 6 figures in student loan, which I had to pay, and it took me like many, many years to pay it, and so I did. Today, OSAP is being, when I say OSAP, it stands for Ontario Student Assistance Program, which is basically student loan and grant which government give to the students for those one who are qualified. You have to be a permanent resident or a citizen, or you have to be a convicted refugee with decision. And the condition is for Ontario that you have to be in Ontario at least for 1 year. So if you qualify, they will give you help. And that is quite generous actually nowadays. It's quite generous, not only taking care of their tuition fees, but also some living expenses, and especially for some people who are having small kids, they could get a good grant, which kind of they don't have to work and they have to focus on their studies and for duration of their studies. And so that way, they don't have to deal with the hassle of the financial
Working
part
and
of it.
studying.
Exactly. Like the way I did, for example. I have to work full time and I have to study full time for 6 years. That's what I did. I worked every Saturday and Sunday. I worked night shift in evenings whenever I was not studying. But that was my reality. Today it's slightly different. It is more friendly. It is OSAP is very generous. But again, this is a political question. As you probably know, Justin Trudeau came in with two slogans: legalizing marijuana and free tuition. He fulfilled both. Don't take me wrong. I didn't vote for him, but he fulfilled both promises. And now we have this generous.
Okay, I'll take that ahead. Do you think the tenure of Trudeau was successful? Do you see it as a success?
There's a lot that he can improve, but at the same time, initially when he came in with these two slogans, he fulfilled both of them. Being a witness in educational sector for the last 10 years, the free tuition is he granted that promise. So now students could apply for a program. Let's say it's a 1-year program. The tuition fees is, let's say, 8, 9, 10,000, and they get enough grant which covers their tuition fees, and plus they get some for living expenses. So that promise was fulfilled. Now next year we are going to have an
But
election.
again, you'll have to have a Canadian citizen. You have to be a Canadian citizen or a PR.
Or a PR, or if you're a convicted refugee with decision, as long as you lived in Ontario for 10 years. The only 1 year, sorry. The only exception to that is newcomers. If somebody come into Ontario as a newcomer, and that person is a PR or convicted refugees with decision, then you don't have to even be 1 year in Ontario. They still qualify for OSAP. So now that is something that could change at any given time. It based on provincial decisions and federal decision. You probably know next year we have an election,
Of course.
and I don't know what happens with that. Is it going to be the same, or is it going to be better or worse? That is something that we will see next year.
We talked about foreign medical graduates, talking about healthcare situation in Canada. I think the wait time in hospitals is 7 hours, if I'm not wrong, 8 hours.
That depends on which
see,
days, which shifts. Yeah.
Yeah, to see a basic general physician.
That is true. There is a shortage of nurses. The shortage of nurses actually started, to be fair, and from my experience, the shortage of nurses started long time ago in Ontario, not now. Even probably if you have been in Ontario, have you heard of Mike Harris? He was our premier in Ontario. He came in with a common sense revolution, and a part of that common sense revolution was to shut down some of the chronic hospitals and focusing more on community care. So instead of keeping those patients in the hospitals or chronic hospitals, the best way they thought is to take them to their community and send help to them, which is a great concept. And now we see in community that is flourishing more and more. because the patient doesn't have to be in an institution if he has a chronic condition. He could live in a group homes, or he could live in his own house, and providing we send help to them. But for the taxpayer purposes, that will be much cheaper. So that, in fact, caused a lot of our RNs and nurses, they got laid off because these hospitals were shutting down. So they went to down south, of course, they're hunting our nurses all the time and our doctors to United States, and they went to south, they went to Middle East. And after a few years, we kind of felt this shortage. Also in 2000, the RN programs became mandatory that they have to have a university degree. They can no longer, the idea was that we should have all our RNs who were graduating from 3 years diploma program to be having a degree, university degree. So that caused a bit of a shortage that as well. So there was a bit of a, worries for our nurses. And we felt that shortage of nurses till today. We are still feeling it. Now, but at the same time, and doctors as well, but at the same time, we have so many foreign grads. We have so many foreign nurses. We have so many. And when I say so many, I'm talking thousands, especially in Toronto, in GTA.
I would say thousands, if not 100,000s.
Exactly. Thousands of foreign nurses, thousands of foreign grad doctors. But unfortunately, with all these red tapes, majority of them, they cannot really fulfill the conditions to become registered. It is like a long journey of like a decade.
Even someone who has cleared the exam is not getting residencies.
Exactly.
They're waiting for like 6 years, 7 years.
I know people, and I have students who actually wrote the exam, and they've been waiting for 4, 5, 6, 7 years just to get a residency spot. And at the same time, we are talking about shortage, and especially in rural areas, the shortage is way more. Obviously, when you live in a mega city of Toronto with millions of people, and everybody would like to live in the city, there will be a shortage. That is given. But that shortage is increasing, but our policies in facilitating and helping them out to get into the system is running very, very slow. I have a lot of friends in Europe. It is much easier. A friend of mine who graduated with me from medical school, he's practicing now in Holland, in Netherlands. It was very easy for them to get licensed and work, and he's working for many, many years and treating a whole lot of patients. But in USA, having 10 times more population and more hospitals and universities is slightly easier. But in Canada, it's tough. It's very tough. And it's unfortunate because at the same time, we are talking about shortage. And the shortage could be easily, somehow, with easing the policies and red tapes, could be fulfilled and dealt with all these foreign grads that we have, roaming around, delivering pizzas and Uber Eats.
And sad to see that nothing has changed from last many years.
No, nothing has changed. And when it comes to physicians, foreign grads, I don't see any improvement at all from 1989 till now for the last 35 years.
That's
But
horrific.
But when it comes to nurses, there is some ease. They could transfer some credits and ease it up a little bit for nurses because of the shortage. So there is some improvement when it comes to RNs, but when it comes to RPNs, but when it comes to foreign grads, physicians, the monopoly still exists and the red tapes are still there.
You being surrounded by students almost all the time, you're running a college right now, so of course you know about the situation of students in Canada right now, with less of jobs, personal financial crunch, and I would say mental health and depression among students is soaring high.
Are you talking about local students or international students or both?
Both, I would say.
Well, international student became a kind of trend and somehow an opportunity for applicants to come into Canada. And majority of them are coming in with a hope to, let's be very frank and open about it. They don't come in to actually learn something that they don't have it back home. For example, imagine somebody's coming from India to study computer here. That is ironic because they have a whole lot more educational facilities who could deliver with way much cheaper price for them. But majority of them are coming in to kind of start a new life and hopefully settle here. That could be a main motivation for those students. And public colleges who are having the ability to give them postgraduate work permit. By the way, we as private career colleges, I'd like to call it regulated career colleges, we are not allowed, or our graduates are not entitled to get postgraduate work permit. That's why we don't have many international students. So the community colleges are feeding on them. They double and triple their prices.
That's the reason of the depression, I would say.
They stretch the courses. They come in and study for
The
1 or 2
tuition
years.
fee that you're talking about, it's $8,000-$10,000. For them, it's $30,000-$40,000.
Exactly. They double and triple their prices for foreigners, for international students. It's a great source of income for them, of course. They get a lot of money from it. And they apply for postgraduate work permit. So if you study for 2 years, they could get another 2 years of postgraduate work permit. And for the international student, the hope is I'll be studying, I'll be here for 2 years, I'll be working, and I'll be getting postgraduate work permit. And somehow in the middle of all these things, I'll qualify to apply for a PR.
Yeah.
And that's the main motivation. You know it, I know it, and everybody knows it.
And what about after PR?
Well, after PR, I mean, they get their permanent resident, and hopefully they have chosen the right program and they have a
What
job.
I have seen among students is they choose a program just to come to Canada. They settle down here, get a work permit, get a PR, and after that they understand that PR was not that important. Important was to get a course that can land them a good job.
Yes. So they have to.
They just have some job, and that job cannot have them.
Exactly.
That course cannot have them a good job after that.
I see a lot of applicants when I advertise for a job, for example, for any administrative duties. I get lots of application, and about 80% of the applicants are international students who came in here and they studied for 1 or 2 years business administration, a very general course. They stretched it and they taught them in 4 semesters or 2 years, something that we teach within 2 months or 3 months. Like we have an APBA program, for example. You learn accounting, the whole shebang about accounting, business administration, and payroll, and 200 hours of practical placement. Everything within 52 weeks. Each of these programs could be taught 2 years in community colleges. So like a 2 years business administration program, or a 2 years or 3 years accounting.
Is the education different? Like, are they teaching something very different than what you are teaching?
The content-wise, we make sure that we have the same content and more. It's not the content; it's the way they are delivering the education. Listen, I was at U of T for 6 years. I have nothing against U of T; it's a very good university, and also I worked in community colleges as well. So the way it is, for example, here, we don't want to waste our students' time. So they come in, there's classes Monday to Friday, 5 hours per day. There is nothing in between. So you study 5 hours per day, 4 days a week. There is no summer holidays. There is no reading weeks. You study, you finish 52 weeks, you do your practical placement, you graduate, and you move on to your career.
That's like how education system is in India.
But when you go to community colleges, you study a semester, and then all of a sudden you're off for 3 months of summer, and then you have a class today, and tomorrow you have a class for an hour and a half, and the next day you're off, and then the next day you have a week of reading week, and then you have a March break, and somehow this kind of stretches. And maybe for financial reason, it's good for community colleges because they get international
What
students.
about students? Their finances.
Well, they knew what they're getting themselves into, right? So they realize this is a 2 years program and they sign up. For international students, there's an incentive because they study for 2 years and then after that they get 2 years of practical postgraduate work permit. So that's kind of the motivation for them, and that's why they are asking for 1 or 2 years program to get a longer postgraduate work permit. But we don't offer those kind of things because 99.9% of our students are local students. We don't have international students for a reason that I just told you previously. And we don't want to waste their time. They study. And so when I hire instructors, they say, okay, so is it first semester, is a contract? And they are assuming that they will be off for 3 months after the 1 semester. And I say, no, it's a permanent full-time position. Really? Yes. And I have an instructor who has been teaching for me for the last 5 years, continuously. And he was never off duty, with the exception of like his vacation time or 2 weeks vacation during Christmas and New Year that traditionally we are closed. And that kind of gives us an opportunity to provide continuity of employment for our staff and instructors. Finding a good instructor is not easy. Once you have, you want to keep him. But if I tell my instructor, okay, you're out for 3 months, come back in 3 months. Now, I mean, this guy has to pay rent for the next 3 years. He has to have an income for the next 3 months. So we don't want to do that. And so whatever we teach in 1 year, rest assured, it could be taught 2 to 3 years in community colleges. And that is one of our main differences. The other main difference we have with them is when we see there is a demand for something and we need to change things, we change it immediately. My office is the head office. We don't have to talk to 20 people. Just we make the changes, we talk to experts, and we make the changes accordingly. Ministry of colleges and universities, they are not up to our speed. For them to approve a change used to take them weeks.
If not months, I would say.
Yes, but post-COVID, it takes them way long. And I understand maybe because the counselors and they have a lot workload because post-COVID, everybody applied for online courses, so they have to be approved. If you have distance education, the same program that you had in person has to be approved for distance education. So if somebody had, let's say, 10 applications, now probably is handling hundreds of applications. So it takes some time. But it has been many years now after COVID. Still, they have the same number of counselors, but their work volume is probably way high. And that's why a small change is happening within 5, 6, 7, 8 months to get approval from the ministry. I wish they will be up to our speed, but as far as us is concerned, we are making the changes immediately. And that is something which is not happening in majority of big public colleges and universities, because for them to make a change, they have to deal with a whole lot of bureaucracy. And
I think that is the same difference which a big company or corporate has and small scale businesses have.
Yeah.
A small scale business, if they want to change something, it'll take them 2 hours to give a change and get approved and go
We
ahead.
are not unionized. We don't have a head office, and we
Exactly.
don't have to consult and deal with a whole lot of red tapes. It could be done immediately, and we deliver the changes. So that is one of the things that we take pride on, updating, being according to the demand in the market, and make changes as we go.
Okay, I'll ask you a basic question. As you told, a student got into a diploma, a course for 2 years, let's say. Then they got a postgraduate work permit for 2 years. After that, the student realizes this is not what he signed for.
Right.
Or right now he's getting a labor job or he's getting a job in Tim. That's not what he signed for. He signed for a future in Canada. What's your advice for him?
You're basically asking for international student.
Yeah, after he gets the PR.
For international student, I think they should really initially they should pick and choose the right subjects. Do a little research, what is really in demand, and take those courses, as opposed to just taking anything as long as it takes them to Canada. And unfortunately, sometimes it happens. Some of the jobs could be taking some time to land a good job. You have to be in the right place and the right time. Even our graduates, in some programs, which is quite technical, for example, software quality assurance and testing. Now that is a very technical program that they will do manual and automation of quality assurance of softwares and programs. Now, this is not a job that will be in every corner, but if they are in the right place in the right time, they could have a very good job. So sometimes it takes some time, and sometimes it takes some networking, and sometimes it takes get to know people. I would suggest volunteering in the field that you study. You have to market yourself.
Okay, let's say the field that they study is not appropriate according to the market. In that case, they got their PR, and now what they have is just a piece of paper
Right.
that's called a degree, and employer sees no value in that because practically you cannot deliver something that is written on paper.
Yeah. I mean,
Because on paper, if there are 5 qualities and you as person cannot deliver it to the employer, you are of no use to the employer.
unfortunately, majority of our big universities were offering degrees in Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Art. The purpose of that is not to graduate and get a job. Actually, the purpose of that to have a liberal education, to get some understanding and extracurricular knowledge, and it kind of enables you, or it will be a starting point to do some graduate studies. So from there, you can go to medicine, law, whatever, engineering, or whatever else you want to do. So that's kind of like set you up for that graduate studies. But again, getting into graduate studies and those fields are also very competitive. It could be long and it could be very costly. It's not everyone's cup of tea. But that bachelor degree by itself does not really give you much. That's why we are in the picture. Regulated career colleges.
What are the smallest duration courses someone can
I think the smallest course we have is 7 months,
Wow.
which includes practicum placement.
What's that?
Personal support worker. They come in, they study 400 hours of theory, and then they go for 300 hours of practicum.
So basically, within 7 months, you're ready to have a job.
Yes. And there is a huge job market out there. There's a huge demand. And in fact, because of the shortage we had during COVID, if you remember, they had to call the army to come and help our residents in nursing homes. So there was a huge shortage. Now, because of that, the actually government of Ontario offered a challenge fund, basically free tuition, and they paid them during the stipend while they're doing their practicum placement. And so we actually had in this campus alone, we had over 300 graduates in 2 years. So there is still there is a shortage out there. Remember, in Canada, we are having a huge elderly population.
Yes.
We are growing older, and the baby boomers are getting older, and they need help in retirement homes and community settings and in their own homes and nursing homes. So there is a huge shortage, and this is a job. It's not a job for everyone. Someone who needs to have this caring attitude in them to help someone else. It's not a job for everyone, of course, but it's demanding job physically and mentally, but it pays well, and there's a very good job security out there. So I don't really know a lot of bachelor degree in university that you study for 7 months and then you graduate and you make $30 per hour.
Exactly.
So there's not much there. And so, and the way the program is designed, it teaches you from scratch. You don't have to have a healthcare background. You could be an engineer or you could be anybody. You come in and we teach them from scratch everything he or she needs to know. And when they do 400 hours of practicum, 300 hours of practicum, they actually learn our healthcare system in long-term care and community. So they have hands-on skills. The whole idea is to go in there. They're very nervous at the first days, but at the end of the day, when they're finishing their practice and placement, they should be very comfortable and they should be able to take a shift and work. And that's what they do. And so actually a lot of them get a job offer right away.
Great.
And because the nature of the unionized nature of our healthcare system, obviously you cannot have a full-time job with benefits right at the beginning. But it takes some time. But you could get a casual job, you could get a part-time job, you could work in two different places part-time, which makes it a full-time job. But the good thing about it is that it has a lot of settings that you could work in. You could work in a long-term care, you could work in community, you could work in a hospital, you could work in a home care. You could actually work privately and help someone who wishes to stay at home and provide care. So there's a whole lot of settings that you could work in depending on your fancy and what you like. And it pays very well. And there is most of my students who are graduating, they don't have one, they have several job offers. And that is something that a lot of universities cannot claim.
Okay, let's talk about any other course.
Well, as part of the
But short duration courses.
we have some certificate programs, which is short duration. For example, we have a program which is very much in demand called Building Superintendent. It's a 30 hours program. They come in, they study in the evening, and they get a certificate, and then they actually become a building superintendent. Now, also we have a bank teller program, which is 40 hours. They get a certificate. But mind you that nowadays a whole lot of workplaces, they demand, for example, a diploma in banking and financial services. So we have a banking and financial services one-year program, which teaches them not only to be a bank teller, but everything else. They get licenses, mutual funds, security. They get to work as a personal banker, or you could work as a cashier. So that kind of a very well-rounded program for all the financial needs. The same thing with building management. We have a one-year program, but also we have 40 hours certificate programs.
Do these, sorry to interrupt, but do these 40-hour program, 30-hour programs, certificate programs, do they really help the candidate?
Yes, we have actually, with building superintendent, we get a lot of corporation who are having buildings. They are sending their staff and they get certification, and they pay for them as well to go and become building superintendent because it's very hands-on skills. But those are the two certificate programs we have. But when it comes to diploma programs, the shortest we have is PSW, and then most of our programs are within 1 year. But when I say 1 year program, that is the entire thing is squeezed in 1 year, which could be taught much longer in other settings, like in community colleges. We also have medical esthetician, I think, which is 16 months.
What is the future you're looking at of graduates, of FMCGs, of right now situation in Canada? What is the future you're looking at?
I would like to see actually for, I've been hoping that there will be a solution. I'm not really much sure about other provinces, but at least in Ontario, I was hoping that they will facilitate and somehow bring down some of the red tapes and give these foreign grads a chance, for especially doctors, with the shortage that we have nowadays. Everybody's wishing this, everybody's talking about it, every politician is talking about it, but in reality, there's not much has been happening. With international students, we see the trend somehow there's a short, like now they decreased
Yeah.
it for in the name of housing shortage and all. But it'll be always there. It'll be always there, and I'm hoping for for international students to pick their programs wisely and do some research before they apply. So if they are willing to go back home, of course, after their studies, pick something which they could utilize in their own countries. But if the idea is to settle down here and stay, something that they could utilize after they graduate. My hope is any college who are delivering any program or any institution, education institution, to offer something which is relevant, something which is really needed. We need to remove and delete some of the very old programs, which is
Irrelevant.
it sounds very good, but it is irrelevant in
Irrelevant.
today's market, and emphasize on programs which is I don't know, maybe a few months from now or next year, there will be another field which is very much needed.
AI coming up.
Exactly. Well, we have, for example, we have cybersecurity and network engineering, which is actually, it has been there for a while, but after COVID, that becomes more popular because a whole lot of things are done online. So that is another program that we developed after COVID, and that was because of the COVID. So if something happens and in the future and there is a need for it, a good institution is the institution which goes along with time and develop program which is relevant.
Coming to Canada as a foreign grad, 35-year back, starting from scratch, developing your own college as a founder, and right now employing a lot of people, giving future to a lot of people, giving them courses that can land them a job and to feed their families. From this position to here, how does it feel?
It feels like a journey. It feels great, actually. I never knew 35 years ago that I'll be doing this. A whole lot of my friends and family says, like probably they called me crazy when I give up certification and being a doctor and get into education. But not everybody is lucky to find their passion in life, and we do jobs which we actually don't like. But somehow I was lucky to find what I loved, and that was education. And so I consider myself lucky. Coming to work, this is how I think about it, and this is what I say to my staff. You got to do something that you like to do. If you like what you're doing, you're having fun. When you're having fun and you're getting paid. And this is how it's supposed to be. That's when you become the most productive. Unfortunately, not everybody has that luxury to do what they like to do.
Mostly people don't have that luxury.
Well, but you have to find your niche. You have to find what you really like to do. But when you find what you like to do, my advice to people is don't do what you don't like to do, because the worst is coming out of you. But when you like what you're doing, you're just having fun and you're getting paid. And to me, that was the kind of experience. I'm actually looking forward to come back to college on Monday morning and make another change in people's life. And the most rewarding things, which you can't put a price tag on it, is when I see people 4 or 5 years after their graduation, I don't recognize most of them. They recognize me. When they actually see me someplace, they hug me and they thank me for what I offered to them. And it changed their lives. I was walking in a plaza, a car stopped, a lady jumped out, and she came in and she gave me a hug. And I said, "Did you recognize me?" I said, "No." And she goes, "I was your student 8 years ago. I'm working and I have a very good job. That is my house. I'm paying my mortgage. It's all thanks to you." So when you see something like that, that is a satisfaction that you can't put a price tag on it. That takes me to come into job every day.
Lovely. It's been a beautiful conversation with
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much for being with us at the Mug Talks.
It was my pleasure to be here.
It was a welcoming experience for us as well. Thank you very much.
You're most
Thanks.
welcome.